I think if he does drop out, I think a lot of people are going to still support him regardless. I feel like at this point, the country's kind of turning into everyone else versus the Democrats.
If he drops out, are you going to be in support of Trump?
Yeah, I would.
Imagine telling someone in the year 2000 that the son of Robert F. Kennedy would be out there campaigning for the Republican nominee, by the way, whose name was Donald Trump. We truly are living in the best timeline, and we're going to talk about it here today, folks. So obviously, does this help Trump in the election? Yes. Is this a great thing to have RFK on board? Yes. But I also do not want to gloss over the fact that what we saw at the Trump rally tonight when RFK Jr. took the stage, it was not only awesome, but in many ways, it truly was historic. But if you've missed the news, if you've been living under a rock, long story short, earlier today, RFK Jr. suspended his presidential campaign and is going to be endorsing Donald Trump, which is obviously big, going to help him a lot in the election. But take a listen to the reception that RFK Jr. got when he took the stage in Arizona tonight. Again, if you told someone this in the year 2000, they would literally think you're crazy. But here we are. By the way, folks, be sure to leave a like on this video, subscribe if you are new, and check it out.
Man, whoa. And he deserves it. He deserves it. For the past 16 months, Bobby has run an extraordinary campaign for President of the United States. I know, because he also went after me a couple of times. I didn't like it. And I mean this sincerely. Had he been allowed to enter the Democrat primary, he would have easily beaten Joe Biden, but they wouldn't let him in. They put up rules. I've never seen rules like you had to have 65% of the vote in order to run, you know, little things like that. His candidacy has inspired millions and millions of Americans, raised critical issues that have been too long ignored in this country, and brought together people from across the political spectrum in a positive campaign grounded in the American values of his father, Robert Kennedy, a great man, and his uncle, President John F. Kennedy. And I know that they are looking down right now, and they are very, very proud of Bobby. I'm proud of Bobby. You want to know the truth?
So here we are, obviously working together, and I can only imagine what is going on in Bobby's head, because he's been treated like absolute garbage by his party, right? His historic party, at least I'll say, the Democrats, for several years now. Immediately, the moment he shows up to a Trump rally, he's treated like an absolute king, like a complete celebrity. And the truth is, I think in many ways, the Trump base has always liked RFK Jr., right? We've always had sympathy for him ever since he called out the COVID stuff and all of that. But obviously some issues with running against each other in the election made that a little bit awkward. But now is the time where we can truly unite on the things that matter, and take a listen tonight as Trump proposed some of that. Obviously, as you may have heard from the announcement, when RFK dropped out, he is going to be tasked in the Trump administration with addressing the chronic disease epidemic, then the problems with our food and water and all of that. But it actually goes a little bit deeper, because apparently Bobby Kennedy will also be in charge of a new independent commission on presidential assassinations that is meant to get to the bottom of the JFK assassination, the RFK assassination, and I would assume also the attempted assassination against Trump. This is a big deal. This is something a lot of us have wanted to know the truth about for a long time. And finally, Trump and RFK working together for the good of the country.
Soon after I can't even believe I have to say this, nearly assassinated in Pennsylvania last month, Bobby called me to express his best wishes. He knows firsthand the risks incurred by leaders who stand up to the corrupt political establishment. When you stand up, you bring on some trouble for yourself, but you have to do what's right. You have to do what's right for the country. I will tell you, we are both in this to do what's right for the country. That's one thing I can tell you. He lost his father and uncle in service to our country, and Bobby himself was subject to repeated threats to his safety during the course of his campaign while being denied protection by the Harris-Biden administration. And this is a tribute in honor of Bobby. I am announcing tonight that upon my election, I will establish a new independent presidential commission on assassination attempts. And they will be tasked with releasing all of the remaining documents pertaining to the assassination of President John F. Kennedy, and they will also conduct a rigorous review of the attack last month.
So obviously you can tell that the crowd loves it. Believe it or not, the JFK assassination tends to be something that the Trump base is particularly interested in because it shows like the lies of the deep state, right, for so long. But you know what I loved especially so much about tonight is that in order to build this coalition with RFK, the MAGA movement does not need to compromise on any major issues, right? This is not like, oh, we're going to become super liberal on this or that to embrace. No. As a matter of fact, there's always been this natural alliance because Bobby and Trump, our respective coalitions, have always united on key issues like this, right? Government corruption, endless wars, stuff like that, as well as this chronic health issue that is not something that Trump necessarily has historically talked about, but obviously a lot of conservatives tend to care about. And take a listen to when Donald Trump announced that partnership as well with RFK, addressing the issues with our food, our water, our health system in general. This is something I care a lot about, to tell you the truth. I think a lot of people do. And it's pretty reckless, frankly, for the Kamala Harris team to brush it off as anti-science or conspiracy theories. But take a listen to that as well.
And I also want to salute Bobby's decades of work as an advocate for the health of our families and our children. Nobody's done more. Millions and millions of Americans who want clean air, clean water, and a healthy nation have concerns about toxins in our environment and pesticides in our food. That's why today I'm repeating my pledge to establish a panel of top experts working with Bobby to investigate what is causing the decades-long increase in chronic health problems and childhood diseases, including autoimmune disorders, autism, obesity, infertility, and many more. We want every child in America to grow up and to live a long and healthy life.
So in a second now, I will play for the video RFK's own remarks. But before I do that, I just want to make an appeal really quickly that out there, if you are an RFK voter or a former supporter, you are 100% welcome in the Trump movement, in the MAGA movement. And you shouldn't feel ashamed about doing so, right? Because this is not a superficial alliance. Sure, it is helping Trump in the election, but this is not just like, oh, let's team up. We share nothing in common, but let's get votes together. No, fundamentally, both of our movements have always cared the most about the key issues, whether that's political corruption, the endless wars, a lot of the health stuff that RFK talks about, many Trump supporters are also passionate about, right? And I think we also have this fundamental agreement that we may disagree on the left-right partisan political issues, right? But fundamentally, if we do not get the corruption fixed in this country, if we do not drain the swamp, if we do not secure the border, which is something RFK actually cares about, and if we do not break the grip that the neocons have on our foreign policy, it doesn't really matter, right? How can we debate a social issue when our government is literally rigged against the people? And so that's a very important reason to the RFK voters out there why I think it is so important. And you are fully welcome, no shame, no drama, right, to unite and win and do this together for the country. And perhaps one day when normalcy is restored in our government, the so-called power to the people that they often like to call it, maybe we can have these debates, right? Maybe we divide fight again. But for now, I think the enemies we share together and taking them down and, rooting out all the corruption in our system is far more important than any differences we may have. And frankly, on those key issues, we share a lot more in common than we would like to think. And seeing some of the reactions, at least online, from RFK supporters today, I think a lot of you out there feel the same exact way. And so let's do this, right? Let's work together, unite, stop the party that sabotaged your guy and has done so much wrong for the past several years. Unite and win together. All right, that said, here is RFK Jr.'s own speech.
Thank you. A few hours after the assassination attempt at Butler, I got a call from a safe food advocate named Kelly Means, who's been fighting for many years to try to end the corruption at CDC and FDA and USDA. And these institutions, these regulatory agencies, are actually run by the big food processing companies, the big ag and the chemical companies that they're supposed to regulate. And he said to me that he'd been advising me for many years and on my campaign. And he told me that night that he was also advising President Trump. And he asked if I would talk to President Trump. And I said, of course. And about a few minutes later, I got a call from the president. And we talked. We had a very good talk. And then he invited me to come see him the next day. And I went to Minneapolis and saw him. We met again a couple of weeks later in Florida. And we talked about, not about the things that separate us because we don't agree on everything, but on the values and the issues that bind us together. And one of the issues that he talked about was having safe food and ending the chronic disease epidemic. Our children are now the unhealthiest, sickest children in the world. Don't you want healthy children? And don't you want the chemicals out of our food? And don't you want the regulatory agencies to be free from corporate corruption? And that's what President Trump told me that he wanted. He also told me that he wanted to end the grip of the neocons on U.S. foreign policy. He said he didn't want any more $200 billion wars in Ukraine, that we could use that money back here in the United States. And the best way to build a safe America is to rebuild our industrial base and rebuild the middle class in this country. And don't you want a president who's going to get us out of the wars and who's going to rebuild the middle class in this country? And he told me that he wanted to end the censorship because the whole basis of American democracy is the free flow of information. And we know that a government that can silence its opponents has license for any kind of atrocity. And can you think of any time that you can look back in history and say that the people who were censoring were the good guys? They're always the bad guys, because it's always the first step down that slippery slope to totalitarianism. And don't you want a president who's going to protect America's freedoms and who is going to protect us against totalitarianism. And I want to ask you again, don't you want a safe environment for your children? Don't you want to know that the food that you're feeding them is not filled with chemicals that are going to give them cancer and chronic disease? And don't you want a president that's going to make America healthy again? Thank you all very, very much, and God bless you, and God bless America.
So there you have it, folks. Let me know your thoughts on all of this in the comment section down below. Be sure to leave a like on this video, subscribe if you are new, and like I said, unite and win. Okay, until next time, God bless and peace.